The open road, late at night, can be a lonely place. For long-haul truckers, it's their office, their home away from home. But sometimes, in the deep, dark hours of the night, when the only light is from their own headlights cutting through the blackness, things happen. Things that can't be explained. Things that chill you to the bone. Tonight, we're diving into 3 true, terrifying stories from truckers who have seen the shadows move when they shouldn't. So, turn down the lights, get comfortable, and get ready to hear what really haunts our highways. Our first story comes from a trucker named Mark, who's been driving the I-84 over 20 years. He thought he'd seen it all, from blizzards to breakdowns in the middle of nowhere. But one night in rural Nevada, he saw something that still makes his blood run cold. He was pushing through the night, trying to make a delivery deadline in Salt Lake City. It was around 2 a.m. The road was completely empty, and the desert stretched out on either side like a black ocean. Suddenly, up ahead in his high beams, he saw a figure standing on the shoulder. This was weird enough, miles from any town. But what really got him was what the figure was doing. It was a woman, dressed in what looked like an old-fashioned, tattered white dress. And she was just standing there, waving. Not like someone who needed help, but slowly, almost rhythmically. Mark slowed down, a little concerned. As he got closer, he rolled down his passenger window, ready to ask if she was okay. But as his headlights fully illuminated her, he slammed on his brakes. Her face, it wasn't right. It was pale, unnaturally so, and her eyes were just dark, empty sockets. There was no color, no life, just 2 black pits staring right through him. He said the air in his cab suddenly felt ice cold, and a feeling of pure dread washed over him. He didn't think, he just reacted. He floored it, not even daring to look in his rearview mirror. He just drove, his heart pounding against his ribs until the sun started to rise. He never saw her again, but he says he still avoids that stretch of I-80 at night. Other truckers have told similar stories about the lady in white of the Nevada desert. Was she a ghost? A warning? Mark doesn't know, and he doesn't want to find out. Next, we head east to the winding roads of the Appalachian Mountains. This story was shared by a driver named Dave, a young guy on one of his first long-haul routes. He was carrying a load through West Virginia, a state known for its folklore and spooky legends. It was late. Misty rain was falling, making the narrow, tree-lined roads even more treacherous. Dave was on high alert, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. As he rounded a sharp bend, his headlights caught something in the middle of the road. It was big, hairy, and standing on 2 legs. His first thought was a bear, but it wasn't shaped like a bear. It was taller, leaner, and its eyes. They glowed a piercing, fiery red in his headlights. The creature just stood there for a second, staring him down before it let out a sound he'll never forget. It wasn't a roar or a growl. It was a high-pitched scream, a sound that seemed to tear through the night and echo in the cab. Then, as quickly as it appeared, it turned and leaped off the side of the road, disappearing into the dense woods with impossible speed. Dave sat there for a full minute, shaking, trying to process what he'd just seen. He'd heard the stories of the Mothman. It's a legendary winged creature of West Virginia, but he'd always dismissed them as local tall tales. After that night, he wasn't so sure. The image of those glowing red eyes and that blood-curdling scream is seared into his memory. He finished his route, but he told his dispatcher he would never drive through those mountains at night again. Some things are better left undisturbed in the dark heart of the Appalachians. For our final story, we travel to the desolate plains of the Midwest. This one comes from a veteran trucker, a man we'll call Jack, who was driving a familiar route through Kansas. It was a clear, moonless night, and the stars were brilliant. Jack was feeling relaxed, listening to the radio, just another night on the job. Then, his radio started acting up. It wasn't just static. It was a voice. A faint, garbled voice cutting through the music. "Help me," the voice sobbed. "I'm lost. I can't find my mom." Jack's heart sank. He grabbed his CB radio, thinking maybe a nearby driver was playing a prank, or worse, that a real child was in trouble. He called out, asking for anyone on the channel to identify themselves. The crying on his AM/FM radio continued, desperate and heartbreaking. "Where are you, little guy?" Jack asked out loud, his hands getting sweaty. The voice answered, clear as day, right through his speakers. "I'm in the back." Jack's blood turned to ice. He was hauling a sealed trailer full of non-perishable goods. There was no way anyone could be in the back. His mind raced. Was he hallucinating from lack of sleep? The seal was intact, untouched. He took a deep breath, broke the seal, and threw open the heavy doors. Nothing, just boxes stacked neatly to the ceiling. Shaken, he sealed it back up and got back in his cab. The radio was silent. The memory of that little boy's voice echoing in his head. When he made his delivery, he learned that years ago, a family had broken down on that same stretch of highway. Their young son had wandered off while his father was trying to fix the car and was never seen again. Jack is convinced he heard the ghost of that lost little boy, forever searching for his mother on a lonely Kansas highway. These are just a few of the countless stories shared by the men and women who drive our nation's highways. They are the lifeblood of our country, but they also witness things the rest of us never will. They see the darkness between the streetlights, the lonely stretches of road where reality seems too thin, and where things from our nightmares can cross over. Alright, let's talk about something that happened a few years back. Something I've tried to forget but just can't shake. I'm a long-haul trucker, and I've been crisscrossing the country for over a decade. I've seen my share of strange things on the road, but nothing, and I mean nothing, compares to this one night in the high desert of Nevada. I was on a tight schedule, pushing my rig through the night to make a delivery in Salt Lake City by sunrise. The highway was a long, dark ribbon stretched across an empty landscape. The only lights were my own headlights and the stars overhead. It was about 2 in the morning, that weird time when the world feels deserted and your mind starts playing tricks on you. That's when I saw him. Up ahead, in the beam of my headlights, was a figure standing on the shoulder of the road. This was miles from any town, any sign of civilization. Just open desert. As I got closer, I could see it was a man, dressed in old, tattered clothes. He had his thumb out, a hitchhiker. Now, every trucker knows you don't pick up hitchhikers, especially not in the middle of nowhere at 2 in the morning. It's just asking for trouble. So, I kept my foot on the gas, planning to drive right on by. But as I passed him, I glanced in my side mirror, and my heart just about stopped. The man was still standing there, but his head was turned completely around, facing me, even as his body faced forward, and he was smiling. A wide, unnatural smile that stretched way too far across his face. His eyes were wide and dark, and they seemed to lock onto mine through the mirror. I stomped on the accelerator, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. I didn't dare look back in the mirror again. I drove for what felt like an hour, my heart pounding against my ribs, before I started to calm down. I told myself it was the fatigue, the long hours, my mind just inventing things. The desert does strange things to a person. I tried to laugh it off, turning up the radio to drown out my own thoughts. Then, up ahead, I saw something else. Another figure on the side of the road. My blood ran cold. As I got closer, I saw it was him. The same man in the same tattered clothes with his thumb out. It was impossible. I had been driving at over 70 miles an hour. There's no way anyone could have gotten ahead of me. This time, I didn't even slow down. I kept my eyes glued to the road ahead, refusing to look at him. But as I passed, out of the corner of my eye, I saw him turn his head again. That same impossible, horrifying turn. That same wide, predatory smile. Panic set in. Real, gut-wrenching terror. This wasn't a trick of the light. This was real. I grabbed my radio and tried to call out to any other truckers in the area, my voice shaking. Breaker 19, any drivers on US 93 northbound? Got a real strange situation out here. Static. Nothing but dead air. I must have passed him 4 or 5 more times that night. Each time he was further down the road, waiting for me. Each time that sickening smile seemed to get wider, more menacing. I was losing my mind, caught in some kind of waking nightmare. I thought about pulling over, but the thought of stopping, of being a sitting duck, was even more terrifying. The last time I saw him, he wasn't on the shoulder anymore. He was standing in the middle of my lane. I swerved hard, the trailer groaning and swaying behind me. I nearly jackknifed the rig. As I wrestled with the wheel, I saw him through the passenger window. He was right there, his face just inches from the glass. He wasn't smiling anymore. His face was a mask of pure rage, and he raised a hand and slammed it against the window. The sound was like a gunshot in the quiet cab. I just drove, my eyes wide with terror, until the first hint of dawn started to break over the mountains. The darkness faded, and the world started to feel real again. When I finally pulled into a truck stop just outside of Salt Lake, the sun was up. I stumbled out of my cab, my legs feeling like jelly. I did a walk around of my rig, just out of habit. And on the passenger side window, right where he had hit it, was a large, greasy handprint. And a long, deep crack in the glass. I've driven that route 100 times since, but never again at night. I don't know what I saw out there in the desert, but I know it was real, and I know it's still out there, waiting. Thanks for listening to my story. Stay safe out there. All right, let me tell you about the single most terrifying night of my life. But nothing, and I mean nothing, compares to this. The road was a straight black ribbon cutting through an endless desert, bathed in the silver light of a full moon. Just me, my rig, and the low rumble of the engine. So, I pulled over at one of those lonely, gravel-dusted rest stops. It was just a patch of dirt with a single flickering street lamp. I killed the engine, and the sudden silence was deafening. I leaned back in my seat, planning to just rest my eyes for maybe 20 minutes. That's when I saw him. A figure, standing at the far edge of the light cast by the street lamp. My first thought was, maybe another trucker stretching his legs. But he didn't move. At all. A weird feeling, like cold water trickling down my spine, started to creep in. I must have stared for 5 minutes straight. Then, I blinked. I told myself I was just tired, my eyes playing tricks on me. I tried to relax, but the feeling of being watched was overwhelming. Tap, 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 coming from the passenger side window. My blood ran cold. I slowly turned my head, and there he was. The same figure. His face was pressed right up against the glass. I couldn't make out his features clearly in the dim light, but what I saw will haunt me forever. And he was smiling. A wide, stretched-out smile that didn't reach his eyes. The tapping continued, slow and deliberate, on the glass right next to my head. Tap, tap, tap. Then the smile widened even more, and he slowly raised a hand, his fingers long and thin like spider legs, and he waved. A little friendly wave. I drove for an hour straight without looking back, my knuckles white on the steering wheel, my heart trying to beat its way out of my chest. I never drove that stretch of road at night again. I don't know what that thing was. A ghost, a demon, some product of my sleep-deprived mind, and it was waiting in the dark. So, if you ever out on a lonely road in the middle of the night and you feel like you're being watched, trust your gut and don't stop. Thanks for listening and stay safe out there.